Hey guys, Probo1701 here, and today we're going to talk about 5 arcade games that I really enjoy. Not necessarily my top 5, but just 5 different arcade games that I really like. Growing up in the 80s and 90s, I of course did get to play in a lot of arcades. I got to play a lot of arcades because they were really popular back when I was younger. So today we're going to talk about just 5 of them I like and why I like them. And as you can guess, number 1 on the list is behind me. I have the arcade one-up Ninja Turtles 1989 cabinet with, of course, that one and Turtles in Time in it. I love the 1989 Turtle arcade. It could be my favorite arcade. It's fun. I love the sprite design. It's really colorful. I love the combat. I love how it flows. It's simplistic while still being fun. I love mastering the jump attack. I love the sounds. I love the sprites. Everything about this game, it's fun, especially the arcade version where you have the infinite lives, and if you want to, you can skip through a level. It's just mindless fun. I don't have to think about it. I can just, it's like having muscle memory. Just being able to play through something I've played through so many times. It's so fun. It's got a great cast of characters. It's got some great villains in it. That Shredder fight is a nightmare, the Crane and Shredder fight, but it's a good nightmare. I love the NES port of it. I actually have Turtles 2 the arcade on the NES. I do own the Cowabunga collection on my Xbox as well. I love the NES version and the arcade. There's so much. It's such a well-made game, and it really does feel like you're playing an episode of the cartoon. It's like the 1987 cartoon just jumps right out at you. Really, really fun. Number 2 on the list is Turtles in Time, which is also on here. I love the arcade version of this and the Super Nintendo version of this. Matter of fact, I think I prefer the Super Nintendo version of this just because I am more used to it. And there are slight differences between them. I also love the remake, Reshelled, which I still have on my 360. You can't get that game anymore, but I love Reshelled. I think it's fantastic. I wish it had been on the Cowabunga collection, but I know it couldn't have been because it was made by Ubisoft. But again, I love the combat. I love the little tweaks they made to it. I love having a special attack. The sound, I love the soundtrack to this game. It's even better than the 89 one. It's just got some killer sounds into it. Sewer Surfing is fantastic. And the music when you're on the Leatherhead train stage is amazing. I always get pumped for so many different themes in this game. When you're on Where No Turtle Has Gone Before on Starbase, it kicks in with that nice video game version of the TMNT theme. It's fantastic. I love the choice of villains. I love the slight differences in villains between the arcade and the SNES version. It's a fun playthrough. The controls are very responsive on both versions. And I just feel like a boss when I'm playing it. Like on Super Nintendo, I always play the hard mode. I like getting that good ending. Again, it's just pure joy to go back and play them. It really is fun. Next on the list is the Terminator 2 arcade. Now, this one hasn't aged as well for me, and trying to play the Super Nintendo port of it is a bit boring, to be honest. But back in the day, I loved playing the arcade of this. I do not own the arcade one-up of that one, simply because that's way too much money for just one game. But I loved playing it, having the mounted gun, and again, for its time, it looked and sounded spectacular. I tend to love the Terminator franchise, especially the first 2 Terminator movies. Terminator 2 is probably the best action movie ever made. It's my favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, and he's one of my favorite actors. It's so much fun playing in this game. It just, like, to me as a kid when it came out, because I was probably about 10 or 11 when it came out, it felt like I was there. I mean, I did hate that one mission where you have to try to save the truck from being destroyed or you have to do it over, because I sucked at that. I never beat T2 the arcade, ever. But just the joy of playing it was so much fun. It's the game that got me into those kind of shooter games that became popular in the 90s, like Revolution X and Area 51. I probably wouldn't have liked those as much if it wasn't for Terminator 2. And I do have to give a shout out to, I think it was the Terminator Salvation game that came out around 2009, 2010 or so. That is basically like Terminator 2, but with better graphics. It was an on-rails shooter. Because it's also really fun. Matter of fact, we got really far into that one. I don't remember if we beat it. We might have beaten it. I don't remember. I remember playing it in Hoover, Alabama. We were at the Galleria Mall, I think it's called, right over across from where the Toys R Us was. And we had a bunch of quarters. One of our friends gave me and another friend of mine a bunch of quarters he had. He's like, go nuts. So we did. I'm trying to remember if we beat it. We got really far into it. And it was really fun. It was a nice kind of sequel to the Terminator 2 arcade. Next on the list is the X-Men arcade. Konami knew how to make beat 'em ups. They did. Now the Simpsons one I like, but it's not good enough to be on this list. I didn't play it much when I was younger. X-Men I played a lot. X-Men I did beat as a kid. I remember my mom kept giving me quarters, and I kept playing it. Me and it was another kid, and we kept playing and kept playing and kept playing and kept playing until we beat it. I remember that. That was pretty cool to be able to say I beat it when I was young. I was probably, I don't even know, 11, 12, but I loved that game. I loved playing as Nightcrawler, although not so much now. I loved his ult, so I played as Nightcrawler a lot. I find him less weak now. I tend to play as like Wolverine or something now, or Colossus. But again, the sprites look good. It reminded me a lot of the animated series, even though it's based off the Pride of the X-Men episode. That was just the one episode, and of course the outfits matched that more. But it still made me think of the animated series. I like the sound effects. I love the voice acting, even if it's terrible, even if the translate. I am Magneto, master of Magneto. It's funny. I love it. You gotta love that. And the gameplay was fun. Konami knew how to make beat 'em ups better than anybody. The gameplay was always fun. And then last on the list is the Star Wars trilogy that came out in the late 90s. I love that one. That is the one, if Arcade 1-Up ever makes that, I'm just gonna have to pay way too much money for it, because I love the Star Wars trilogy. My best friend and I used to play it a lot when we were in high school or just getting out of high school. And we would take turns. When one of us died, the other one would take over. And while one was playing, the other one would wait for the little buttons to light up. Because you had these little red dials you could press to call in backup at certain points. They'd light up and you could press it and backup would come in to help you. And then I was terrible at watching him. I'd get so caught up in watching him play. Half the time he was hitting them himself. Like, my bad. He goes, no, it's cool. Because I don't multitask well. He was good at it. When I was playing, I wouldn't even notice they'd light up. Because, again, multitasking. He would be... But it's fun. I mean, you go through Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. You go through key points of all three movies. And the gameplay is really good. The only thing I struggled with was the duel scenes. There's one part where you fight Boba Fett, which I really sucked at, and one part where you fight Vader, and I usually sucked at. One time I had him down to where I only needed one more hit. I needed one more hit, and I couldn't get it. I never managed to beat either of them, though. But the games were fun. They were a heck of an adventure, and especially for the time, the graphics were highly impressive. They looked really good, and kind of made me feel like I was there. Still quite possibly my favorite Star Wars experience in video games outside of the KOTOR games, because I love the KOTOR games. So that's 5 arcades that I like. I want to know what you think of these games, so comment down below and let me know. Other things to do, don't forget to click the like button and the subscribe button and the bell for notifications so you never miss out on another video. I also have a Patreon if you would like to support me on that. There is a link to that down in the description below. I want to give a shout out to some of my top tier patrons, Stephen Crane, Colin Coney, and Finn Perkins. If you are a fan of Doctor Who, I have a Doctor Who channel. That's my main channel called Another Sci-Fi Guy, where I talk about all things Doctor Who. And I have a P.O. box if there's anything you'd like to send me down there, and a link to my Amazon list is down there as well. Most importantly, thank you for watching.